YouTube, welcome back. Today we're talking about movement again, one of my 3 pillars for success in Warzone. And we're specifically talking about settings that you can adjust that will make it easier for you to have better movement. There's actually 6 in total that I'm going to run through. Now, as always, if you find this video helpful, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And if you aren't already, make sure you are subscribed with that notification bell turned on so that you don't miss any videos. Let's get into it. Before we get fully into this, I did provide you sections below so that you can easily fast forward to any part. Now, my keyboard and mouse players, go ahead and fast forward to setting number 3, apply all. The first 2 don't actually apply to you. Now, my controller players, if you already run bumper jumper tactical or bumper jumper tactical flipped, then I don't need to break that down for you again. Go ahead and fast forward to setting number 2, use and reload behavior. Now, if you don't run bumper jumper tactical or bumper jumper tactical flipped, let's talk about it real quick. So, with movement, we want to keep our right thumb on the right stick as long as possible, right? Because that's what we use to move around, to aim, to make sure that we can actually see people. So you want to keep that right thumb on the right stick as long as possible. With default layout, the problem is to jump and to crouch prone slide. Those are the 2 most crucial parts of movement. To do those things, you have to remove your thumb from the right stick and actually hit those buttons. So what I like to do, and there's a few different options here. First is tactical. Now, that doesn't really solve your jump problem. And if you didn't see or don't know about slide canceling, we're talking about slide, jump here. So the jump's the crucial part, or jumping while shooting, or bunny hopping, or jump peeking corners. You got to be able to jump while actually shooting. So this is the problem, in my opinion, with tactical. And just to note, this is for normal Xbox or PlayStation controllers. If you have a Scuff or a Battle Beaver or something with paddles, this is totally different. But for normal controllers, we're talking about jumping and crouch prone slide. So with tactical, you don't get that jump ability. Now, with bumper jumper tactical, it completely changes your controller settings. And guys, it's going to be weird. Everybody always tells me this. Joe, it's so weird at first. It is. But it's worth it because it allows you to jump and to crouch prone slide without ever taking your thumb off the right stick. Now, if you want to go one step further, I actually flip mine so that I shoot with my bumpers. This is for a few different reasons. One, your trigger input is much smaller. So when you ADS and when you pull the trigger, even on an AR, it's going to be slightly quicker than if you use the triggers. Now, further, things like a pistol, right? This helps with trigger finger because it's just a tap. It doesn't have that delay of you having to push down that trigger. So I actually run flipped. Ultimately, I jump with my left trigger. Your lethal equipment's going to be weird. Your parachute deploy is going to be weird. You're always going to get asked that question. Your field upgrade, like if you pop Deady, I believe it's A, right trigger. It's going to be weird. There's a few things that are going to take getting used to. But most importantly, when you are playing, you can keep your thumb on the right stick for as long as possible. When you crouch, when you go to slide, you keep your thumb on the right stick. When you go to drop shot, you keep your thumb on the right stick. When you jump while shooting, you keep your thumb on the right stick, and you can keep your left finger on the shoot button while jumping. So again, it's a little bit weird, but I would highly recommend on a normal controller. Again, not Scuff, not Battle Beaver, not anything with paddles. Normal controller running bumper jumper tactical flipped. Okay, next up, we're going to go ahead and scroll down here to use/reload behavior. And this one has a lot to do with this is actually your X button right here, right? What you use to reload, what you use to open crates. And I'm going to show you why this is so important. So right now, as it's set, which is the default, is tap to reload. So what this means is you tap X to reload and you hold X to use. Well, the problem is when looting, which isn't a pretty important part of Warzone in the beginning, or when you go to swap something, whether it's a gun or anything like that, you have to actually hold it to use it. So I want you to go ahead and either switch this to tap to use or contextual tap. And the difference here, tap to use means basically you just flip these 2 things, the use and the reload. So when you're going around looting, you're tapping X to open crates. When you need to reload, you hold X. Now with contextual tap, you basically tap to reload or to use. This is not my preference. I find that a lot of times I want to reload and actually end up like picking up a gun or something like that. and it's just not very conducive for me, but a lot of people do use it. And of course, with contextual tap, if you hold the button, it always actually reloads. I personally suggest tap to use. It'll allow you to run around quicker and be very, decisive when you want to reload. You have to actually hold X for, a little bit longer to reload, which basically separates and distincts the two. If you're in a pile of loot and you hold X, it knows to reload. Whereas with contextual tap, if you're in a pile of loot and tap X, it generally swaps guns. So I would highly recommend tap to use. So we just talked about use reload behavior. Now let's scroll down a little bit and we're going to talk about armor plate behavior. Now, the default for this one is to apply 1. What does that mean? It means when you hold down the Y button, or I guess triangle on a PlayStation controller, you apply 1 plate. And after that 1 plate's done, then you have to apply the second plate. And when that plate's done, then you have to apply the third. It's so slow, and you have to actually focus on plating up. Instead, put it on apply all. So essentially what this means is you're going to tap the apply button once, Y or triangle, and it's going to fill the plates as much as possible. So if you're missing 2 plates, it's going to put 2. If you're missing 3, it's going to put 3, obviously. But what this allows you to do is, I think the most important situation is when somebody takes your plates and is chasing you. So this will allow you to actually slide cancel and play fast while plating, because you don't have to ever take your finger off the stick to hit Y again. Now, just a quick tip. In order to cancel this, right? Say you're in a building and somebody's chasing you and you decide you actually have to challenge even though you only have 2 plates in, you're just going to double tap Y. So you're going to Y, it's going to cancel that animation, and then you're going to be able to fight. That's probably one of the most important things to know with this. Next up, we're just going to scroll 1 down to slide behavior right here. This is going to be a quick and easy tip. Right now it's set to hold, which means there's an actual input delay. When you click that slide button, it's going to wait a second before it registers and goes, oh, okay, he's holding the slide button. Let's go ahead and slide now. So I want you to go ahead and change this to tap. Makes it much easier to slide, makes it much easier to slide cancel, slide around corners. Like I said in the beginning, these are just quick settings changes that make it easier for you to have better movement. This being one of them makes it much easier to slide. Next up, we're going to scroll to the bottom to parachute auto deploy. Now let's make sure this is disabled. Why? If you know my videos or you've seen them before, you know I love the Can You Fall series, where I test different buildings to see if you can fall off them and survive. There's a lot of buildings in Warzone that you don't actually have to pull your parachute on, but it's going to give you the option to. Well, when it gives you the option, with this enabled, it's going to pull that parachute. So if somebody jumps down and you're trying to chase them to go after them and kill them, you don't want to pull your parachute. You want to have control over when it pulls and when it doesn't pull. So make sure this is disabled. Okay, this last one takes getting used to, but it is probably the most important thing besides button layout when it comes to having better movement. And that is your automatic sprint. Now, by default, this is disabled. What does that mean? It means that you have to double click the left stick to sprint. Which, it is what it is, but there's a little bit of input delay there, and slide canceling becomes very difficult. Again, if you haven't seen my first video, make sure you check the comments below. But that first kind of most important thing with slide canceling is slide, jump, right? So in order to do it, what you have to do with this disabled is slide, jump, double click left stick, right? Slide, jump, double click left stick. So it's a lot of button pushing, right? Now, some people do run auto sprint. Why? Because they don't want to actually have their character, sprint, like full tack sprinting the whole time. And just so you know, this is the difference. So this is with nothing. This is just normal walking. This is your tack sprint, and this is your normal sprint. So it's kind of 3 different speeds. Now, a lot of people do have auto sprint on and then still do the double tap to get it. Why? It gives you a little bit more control over when you're sprinting and when you're not sprinting. Especially in buildings, there are certain times where you don't want to necessarily be tack sprinting. But the one thing to keep in mind here is that once again, to slide cancel and reset that tack sprint, you are going to have to slide, jump, double click the left stick, which can be a bit much when, you're running from somebody or, any situation where you need to play fast. It's a lot of button pressing. So I actually run automatic tack sprint. What does that mean? Any opportunity that my character is given, he is going to run with tack sprint. So I'm going to go ahead and run away from this truck here. But all you have to do is push your left stick forward and you basically tack sprint, which gives you the fastest speed possible. The other thing with this is it makes it very easy to slide cancel and reset your tack sprint, because all you have to do is, I'm still pushing the left stick forward. Now I'm going to slide jump. Now I'm going to reset that tack sprint. Right? So all you have to do is slide jump, and it's going to reset that tack sprint. So it makes it much easier. Now, a few downsides, just minor things here. You know, when you're going through a door, these are things just to keep in mind that I'm going to tell you because I learned them the hard way. When you peek a door, right, if you immediately go to push through it, you break the door open. So instead, because most people go like this and then that, which defeats the purpose of peeking the door. So you're going to have to ADS that way. Now, in terms of tack sprinting, you know, just because of moving forward, your character's automatically going to tack sprint like upstairs and stuff. So if you want to keep that element of surprise, you can do one of two things. You can ADS walk. And guys, you know, in the bigger buildings like downtown or apartments or something, yeah, it's not exactly the most fun. So what I do is actually kind of go at an angle. So you're, instead of going straight up and then turning and then going straight up, you kind of, I'm almost walking sideways here. As long as you're not facing forward, it won't actually tack sprint. The other option is just to go really slow and be very careful with it, because that'll prevent tack sprinting as well. But overall, I would say you should definitely be running either automatic tack sprint or automatic sprint. You definitely don't want to have this disabled. That's just a small thing with movement. And look, at the end of the day, if I'm getting chased by somebody, or you know, I'm running up building stairs, again, trying to get away from somebody, or even just moving out in the open here, right? You know, say somebody's shooting me from up here. I don't want to have to think about clicking the left stick here. I want to focus on finessing and how can I get in this building as quick as possible. And the answer to that is with auto tack sprint. So go ahead, try it out. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I'm an open book. Of course, my whole goal here is to help you continue getting better at Warzone. As I always say, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get better today and subscribe for more.